We moved into our new house on a hot, sunny morning. It was a suburban house, old with peeling walls and creaking wooden floors. It was being sold at a suspiciously low price, but we had no other choice. When I entered the living room, the first thing that caught my eye was not the fireplace or the large windows, but a huge painting already hanging on the wall. A portrait of a strange woman. Her skin was as white as porcelain, her lips were tightly pressed together, her black hair fell to her shoulders, and her eyes were red, hazy, as if she'd been crying for a long time. I shivered. "Take it down tomorrow," I said. My husband tried it right away. He took out pliers and pulled hard. The hook didn't budge, as if it were welded to the wall. He gasped. "Forget it. We'll figure it out tomorrow." My daughter stood next to me, staring at the painting. She whispered, "She doesn't want to be alone, Mom. She just said her name was Seraphine." I paused. No one in the house had ever mentioned that name. "Did you think of it yourself, Lyra?" I asked sharply. She shook her head, her eyes never leaving the picture. "No," she said it in my ear. A chill ran down my spine. We continued cleaning all day. Boxes filled the hallway. Dust covered my sleeves. I tried to ignore the picture, but every time I passed it, I felt like it was following my every step. In the evening, she took out her notebook and drew. The woman's face appeared on the page. Black hair, red eyes, but next to it was a dark house with empty windows. Around 2 a.m, I was thirsty. I went down to the kitchen and past the living room. I heard it. Sweep, swish, swish. A familiar sound, a brush sweeping across canvas. I froze. I turned on the light. The room was silent. The fireplace was bare. The box lay still. But in the painting, on the woman's left cheek, was a bright red, shiny bloodstain, as if it had just dripped from somewhere. I panicked, ran up to shake my husband. "Come down, you have to see this." He reluctantly followed. I pointed straight at the painting, my heart pounding. "Look!" But at that moment, the other cheek was bare. There was no trace. He sighed, put his hand on my shoulder. "You're so nervous. It's the first day of moving." I was speechless, not knowing how to argue. When he turned to go upstairs, I glanced back again. The hallway light fell on the wooden frame. The twisted carvings, instantly transformed into fingers clutching the painting from within. I froze, and then, at that moment, I heard it. A child's voice whispered, vague but clear. 1, 2, 3. I froze. From upstairs, my daughter stirred, her voice muffled in her sleep. "Don't be afraid, Seraphine. I'm here." My chest tightened, and I understood, that very first night, that there were more than just the 3 of us in this house. I couldn't sleep. After the bloodstain incident in the painting, I didn't dare close my eyes for long. My husband snored lightly, tired from all the carrying. As for me, every time I closed my eyes, I saw those blurry red eyes. About 3 a.m, I heard footsteps, light, steady, dragging through the hallway. I jumped up. Lyra wasn't in bed. I ran downstairs. The living room was dark, except for the moonlight coming through the glass door. She was standing right in front of the painting, barefoot, holding a stuffed cat. "Lyra!" I called softly, my heart pounding. She turned around, her voice eerily calm. "Miss Seraphine says the painting is almost finished. She's not sad anymore." I pulled her away from there. Her body was cold. "Where did you hear that?" "In my head," Lyra said, as if stating the obvious. I squeezed his hand and carried him upstairs. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I decided to take the painting down. I got a hammer, pliers, a box cutter. I knocked, pried, pulled. But the hook was stuck to the wall, not moving at all. Adrian frowned. "You're overdoing it, Mara. It's just a painting." "No," I said. "It's not normal." Lyra sat at the dining table, chewing her bread. She looked at me, then at the painting, then smiled faintly. She said Mom couldn't take it down, because she was here first. I was stunned. She spoke as if repeating someone's whisper. That afternoon, while I was cleaning the kitchen, Lyra was drawing again. I glanced over. This time in her painting, there was not only a black-haired woman, but also a small hand sticking out of the frame, just like a child's hand. I snatched the notebook away. "Who taught you to draw like this?" Lyra was silent. She held the stuffed cat, looking down at the floor. Then she mumbled, "I didn't add it. She told me to add my hand." That night, I woke up again. The scratching sound rang out again. I didn't turn on the light right away, but stood still and listened. The sound of the brush became clearer and clearer, faster and more urgent, like someone was finishing an unfinished painting. I crept closer. In the dim light, I swore I saw a tiny hand gripping the edge of the wooden frame. Pink, familiar fingers, just like my daughter's hand. I stood there, not daring to breathe. And then, from the darkness, a hoarse woman's voice rang out right next to my ear. "There's only one more person missing." The next morning, I went to work. The picture was all over my mind. I didn't dare tell anyone at work, afraid of being laughed at, afraid of being considered delusional. I just said, "The new house is a bit old. It needs a lot of repairs." When I got home, I felt a strange atmosphere. Lyra sat at the dining table, crayons scattered, but she wasn't drawing. She was whispering to the empty chair in front of her as if someone was sitting there. I gritted my teeth. "Lyra, who are you talking to?" She looked at me, her eyes calm. "I told Seraphine. She said she had enough color for today. Just one last line." My hair stood on end. That evening, I couldn't stand it anymore. While Adrian was watching football, I took a kitchen knife to the living room. I thought if I couldn't take it off, I would tear the canvas to pieces. I took a deep breath, raised the knife, and made a cut. Immediately, bright red blood spurted from the cut. It flowed onto the wooden floor, fishy and thick. I screamed, backed away, and fell to the floor. Adrian ran in. He looked at the painting, then at me. But to him there was nothing, just the painting intact, not a tear. The floor was spotless. "What's wrong with you, Mara?" he shouted for the first time in months. "Nothing!" I trembled, knife still in hand. Adrian snatched the knife away and threw it into the sink. "Go to sleep, you're delusional." I didn't argue, but my heart was pounding and my eyes couldn't take their eyes off the painting. That night, when the whole family fell asleep, I heard the sound again. It was no longer scratching, but a quick, urgent, hurried brush sweeping sound. I jumped up and went out into the hallway. In the living room, the painting glowed red. On the canvas, besides the woman, besides the small hand, there were now other faces, distorted, blurred, as if drowned in blood. And right in the middle, I could see Adrian's face. I froze. Behind me, Lyra spoke softly. Her voice sleepy but clear. "She said it was almost done, Mom. It would be perfect, when Dad was in it." The next morning, I didn't tell Adrian what I'd seen. I knew he'd just shake his head, call it tiredness or delusion. But during breakfast, I didn't dare look directly at him. Because the face I'd seen in the painting was his, there was no mistaking it. Lyra ate her cereal, chewing and smiling to herself. I asked, "What are you smiling about?" She looked up. Innocently. "Miss Seraphine said Daddy's going to be with her soon. Daddy won't have to worry anymore." I dropped my spoon in the bowl, milk splashing everywhere. Adrian frowned. "What's wrong with you, Mara?" I swallowed, not answering. That afternoon, Adrian brought the hammer down to the living room. He stood in front of the painting, frowning. "This damn thing is haunting you too much. Let me take it off." He slammed the hammer into the frame, but each hammer blow bounced back, making a hollow sound like it was hitting solid metal. He roared, "It's just a wooden frame!" He pounded harder, then suddenly stopped. I saw his cheeks turn pale, his eyes widen. He stared at the painting, as if hypnotized. I shook his shoulder. "Adrian," he whispered, "she is calling you." That night I tried to hide the matter from my son. But during the meal, Adrian barely said anything, only occasionally glancing toward the living room. Lyra propped her chin on her hand, giggling. "Dad will look great in the painting." I wanted to yell at my son, but I held back. I just quietly put my hand on his hand. He immediately pulled it back, his eyes cold, not like a normal child. Night. I was awakened by the noise. When I went down to the living room, I was stunned. Adrian stood shirtless, holding a box cutter, slashing at his palm. Blood ran down the floor, red as ink. He pressed his hand against the painting, blood staining the canvas. And as the blood soaked in, I saw his face in the painting more clearly. It was no longer blurry like the day before. It was clear, sharp, vivid as a photograph. I screamed, snatching the knife from his hand. Blood stained my nightgown. He looked at me, his eyes wild. "You don't understand, Mara. She needs me. She promised to give everything back." I backed away, trembling. On the wall, the painting glowed, as if swallowing the light. The woman Seraphine tilted her head slightly, her lips slightly raised, half smiling, half mocking. And from within the painting, I heard a whisper, clear, cold. "He belongs to me." After the night Adrian smeared his own blood on the painting, everything in the house changed dramatically. He became strange. He no longer grumbled about losing his job, no longer complained of being tired. He woke up early, quietly went down to the living room, and sat for hours facing the painting. He didn't turn on the TV, didn't read the newspaper. He just sat there like someone waiting for orders. I asked, "What are you doing down there?" He replied nonchalantly, "Just looking at art. You should try it. It soothes the mind." The way he said it made my spine tingle. Lyra changed too. She rarely talked to me, just whispered in the corner of the room or covered the pages of her notebook. It was all Seraphine's face. In one picture, Seraphine smiled next to Lyra. In another, Adrian stood in the painting, his face cold, his eyes red. One time I asked, "Lyra, why do you keep drawing?" She looked up and replied indifferently, "Seraphine told me to stay with her, to leave you and Mom alone. I just drew for her." I was stunned. That afternoon, I tried to take a picture of the painting with my phone, but when I opened it, the screen showed only a solid red patch, nothing else. I told Adrian, hoping he would worry, but he just smiled faintly and said, "See? She doesn't want to be photographed. She wants to be respected. Stop fighting, Mara." His voice was so calm it made me shiver. Night. I woke up to the sound of a Tamal, high-pitched laugh. I went downstairs. The living room was dimly lit, not by the light, but by the painting itself. Seraphine in the painting had changed. Her face was clear, her eyes were red, alive, as if she were breathing. Beside her stood Adrian, his eyes blank. Lyra sat on the floor, holding her stuffed cat, looking up and smiling. She turned to me and whispered, as if revealing a secret, "She said she only needed one more person, Mom. Then the picture would be perfect." I stepped back, my hands shaking. In that moment, I knew. The one more person Seraphine was asking for was me. I couldn't take it anymore. Watching my husband and daughter get more and more absorbed in the painting, I knew that if I didn't do something, I would lose them. The next morning, while Adrian was still asleep, I sneaked over to the neighbor's house, Mrs. Ida Whitlow. I told her briefly, "There's a strange painting in the house. The girl talked to it. I saw blood." Mrs. Ida was silent for a long time, then said softly, "This house has changed owners many times. No one has lived there for more than 3 years. Every family has lost someone." I shuddered. "When did the painting come?" "When the house was built," she whispered. "The first owner's wife was murdered by her husband. He was the painter. He trapped her soul in that painting. Since then, it has needed blood to live." I choked. "So how can I escape?" She just shook her head, her eyes dull. "No one has escaped?" I returned, my mind in turmoil. I decided to try to find evidence. While Adrian went out to buy things, I pulled open a cupboard and removed a section of the wall behind the painting. Under the old tiles, I found a small niche. Inside was a dusty, yellowed leather diary. My hands trembled as I turned the pages. The writing was scribbled, the ink blurred, but still legible. Seraphine cried, begging me to stop, but I had to keep her forever. I mixed her blood with the paint so she would never leave. If a soul was missing, the painting would call. It would be incomplete. I would complete it at any cost. I threw the diary to the ground, my heart pounding. That night, I hid the diary in a drawer. But as soon as I lay down, Lyra opened the door, her eyes glowing in the darkness. It whispered, "Mother, Seraphine knows you read it. She told you not to stop her, otherwise the next person in the picture will be you." After saying that, she turned away as if she had never entered. I sat there, frozen, cold sweat pouring down my face. I understood. This game was no longer vague. I had touched the horrifying truth that Seraphine wanted to hide. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. If I waited any longer, neither Adrian nor Lyra would be themselves. I'd seen my husband's eyes, sometimes dull, sometimes bright, like someone listening to orders from somewhere else. I'd seen my daughter whispering to the void as if someone were actually standing there. That night, I sat on the bed, listening to Adrian's soft snores and Lyra's steady breathing from the next room. I clutched the lighter in my hand, my mind racing with a single thought: destroy this painting. I quietly walked down to the kitchen and grabbed the small can of gasoline that Adrian kept in the cupboard because he sometimes used it for his lawnmower. My hands were shaking, but I didn't stop. I went straight into the living room. The painting still hung there, towering and dark, but the red eyes of the woman inside seemed to glow dimly in the darkness. I shivered. I opened the can, the pungent smell of gasoline rushing straight to my nose. I poured the gasoline straight onto the picture frame. Streaks ran across the surface, onto the floor, the smell filling the room. "Okay," I whispered, almost crying. "If you need blood to survive, I'll give you fire." I lit the lighter. The flames flared blue. But what happened next made me want to faint. The picture didn't catch fire. Instead, the fire was sucked back in, as if a giant mouth was swallowing it. The entire room was still dark, only the picture glowed red. I saw the flames swirl, burning the faces inside. I backed away, my heart pounding, and then I saw, in the midst of the flames, Adrian's face appeared. No longer blurry like before, but sharp and frightening. His mouth opened, as if calling my name. "Mara!" I screamed. "No, not you! Get out of there!" And just as I was about to rush forward, another figure appeared beside Adrian. Lyra. She, her tiny hands clutching the frame, her eyes glowing red, her mouth smiling. I froze. "Lyra, no, dear." "What's wrong?" Adrian's voice echoed from the stairs. I spun around. He was standing there, but he looked different. His shirt was disheveled. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands gripping the railing as if he were about to break it. He stared at me, his voice hoarse. "Mara, how dare you betray her?" I backed away, my heart racing. What are you talking about?" He walked down the steps, the hallway light illuminating his pale face. "She needs you. She said if you just... everything will be over. You don't understand." I trembled, backing up against the wall. My hand still held the lighter, but the fire in the painting had gone out. Instead, Seraphine's eyes in the painting were wide and bright, her lips curled into a full smile. And then Lyra appeared behind Adrian. She held the stuffed cat, her red eyes flickering, her voice small and sharp. "Mother, don't fight anymore. As Seraphine said that all that's missing is you. Then our family will be together forever." I stood there, frozen, my back pressed against the wall. In the painting, Seraphine tilted her head, her eyes fixed on me, like someone who had won a long game. And I understood. We were all in her hands. I stood there, one hand shaking with a lighter, the other covered in blood. "Adrian looked at me with a strange look," Lyra whispered to an invisible shadow. I knew if I didn't end it tonight, my family would be gone. I remembered the diary hidden under the drawer. He, the mad painter, had trapped Seraphine's soul in a painting with blood. If blood could imprison, then blood could also free. But it had to be a voluntary sacrifice. I took a deep breath, then slashed my palm. Hot blood gushed out. I pressed my hand to the center of the painting, right into Seraphine's red eyes. "Take my blood," I shouted. "But release my husband, release my son." The room shook violently. Lights flickered on and off. The walls creaked as if they were about to collapse. From within the painting, screams rang out, chaotic, as if dozens of long-imprisoned souls were rising at once. Seraphine looked at me. Her eyes were no longer bloodshot, but filled with tears. Her tense face slowly relaxed. She whispered, her voice hoarse but clear, "Thank you. Finally, someone is willing to change this ending. Immediately, the painting exploded. The canvas tore. The wood flew in all directions. A cold wind blew in from somewhere, making my hair fly in disorder. I fell to the floor, blood from my hand painting long streaks. When I opened my eyes, the room was dark, dead silent. There was only a blank space on the wall. The painting was gone. Adrian collapsed near the fireplace, unconscious but still breathing. Lyra lay on the sofa, hugging the stuffed cat tightly, her eyes closed as if just waking up from a nightmare. I rushed over, hugged the child, then collapsed next to my husband. I cried, both pained and relieved. We were returned. Behind the scenes. A few weeks later, we moved out. I didn't let Adrian or Lyra back into the living room one last time. I didn't explain anything to the realtor, just said, "We're not suited to this house. Maybe another family will move in, but I believe Seraphine has left." I saw her smile. One last smile before she disappeared. What I learned from this, I learned something I'll never forget. Don't believe the low price. When a house is selling for an unbelievable low price, there's always a reason behind it. And sometimes the real price isn't money, it's the life of the person living there. Always find out the history of the house. Who lived there? Were there any accidents or unusual deaths? The paperwork doesn't say everything, but the neighbors do. Before entering a new house, open it, light a candle, open all the windows, let the light and wind in. Some people believe that this will drive away the remnants of the previous owner. I no longer take that for granted, and most importantly, listen to children. What adults dismiss as imagination is sometimes the clearest truth. If I had listened to Lyra from the beginning that day, perhaps we would not have nearly lost everything. Now, every time I pass by an old house, I no longer see it as a bargain. I ask myself, what did it witness? What secrets does it keep behind those walls? And I know sometimes the past will not stay quiet. It will find a way to tell. As for me, I have learned not every house is for me.